Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, while you raised two key issues, clarifying first and foremost that the bar is not against prosecuting judges. Yeah, and that's also about the process.
Yeah.
But we also had Mr. Eke here who, while speaking on a separate matter, a lawyer, he says, look, that how you acquire evidence in many cases doesn't matter, but the evidence will always be valid in court.
Absolutely.
Can that principle be applied in this case? Because the evidence against them, if they actually had those amounts of monies, the court will consider that, wouldn't they?
No, but there are two different things. Evidential value, however acquired, is admissible. But due process is constitutionally guaranteed. And I can see that assuming the judges go forward to trial, assuming, and I'm counsel to them, I'll make a case that the constitutional guarantees given to them have been violated. And that is fundamental. Evidential issues are different. If there is a fundamental vice in the way in which the arrest has occurred, it will affect the process. But let me just ask a simple question. Can't we do things correctly?
No, but they've come up to say they also had a warrant. And isn't that correct to say that at least they had a warrant and they needed to move in? If you put that with the question Chamberlain asked, that irrespective of whatever manner they can get such evidence, they had to go. But first things first, they got a warrant.
Yes. But even with the warrant, do you think, or would an ordinary average Nigerian think, that the manner in which the arrest was conducted was humane? Even the act itself, under which they purport to have gone, the Administration of Justice Act, refers to humane treatment of people suspected of committing a crime. Section 34 or 35 of the Constitution refers to not subjecting people to inhumane and degrading treatment, in my view, without prejudice to whether they committed this offense or not. They would have been handled in a much more humane way. What about all these generals who've been stealing money, billions? Have they done this? All the generals involved in the scandal about the arms deal. I'm sure that judges have the stature to respond to invitations. Couldn't they have been invited? I'm just throwing things up to know.
We get that, but you see, the other aspect is that about the nomenclature of the DSS or the SSS, which one is recognized by the National Security Agencies Act.
Right.
The National Assembly, while they consider this matter, they never refer to that. And they're supposed to be the lawmakers.
Well, they don't know. It's not my fault.
No lawyer has gone to court.
But I'm saying it. I mean, it's not my fault that they don't know it. But look it up. I mean, let's look it up.
So it must be affected. If you have a name change, it must be in the statute.
Absolutely. The DSS is not the same as the SSS. It's not the same. But let's not push that so that it doesn't become procedural. I mean, I don't want to push that. Let's say that DSS is the SSS. Let me grant that argument so that we don't fall into this trap of saying, aha, lawyers again, here we come with our procedural technicalities. I want to make clear that that is not what the NBA, speaking for the NBA president, intends. We want to get to the bottom of this. But what we have seen so far, and by the way, we're waiting for the DSS to release the evidence. There's a process set out in the Administration of Justice Act dealing with procurement of evidence. The DSS has flouted every single one of them. They said they collected 900 million or 500 million or all of what they did. There's a procedure they have to follow. They didn't do that. Why haven't they spoken? They say that a judge was groveling and begging one of the chief security officers. Let them release this thing. Let them show us. What's the difficulty?
You mind sharing the process? What processes would they have gone through to acquire those monies or those evidence?
Search warrant, as you rightly refer to.
Which they said they had that.
Which they said they had. Let's concede that. Humane treatment, which they didn't do. Collecting the money, which the suspect will sign for. Entitlement to legal counsel. Immediately took them to custody. they would say, do you need a lawyer? It's called the rule in Miranda. You will say, do you need a lawyer? Did they call a lawyer for them? They just, I will assume that they got them to write statements. So all the guarantees in the Constitution have not been followed. That's my point. And that is the point that the NDA is making.
How come some other lawyers like yourself, especially some other senior ones,
Yes.
are putting the blame on the table of the NBA and senior lawyers?
Yes. We have divided opinion, and I respect that lawyers like Professor Sage will differ from what I'm saying. I respect it, because that is what you expect in a democratic society. We can't all agree. Corruption is rife. It's a big issue. The Vice President referred to it, and I support him entirely. I support the fact that the government needs to fight corruption. But when I was NBA President, I prepared a position paper for the Attorney General, which dealt with strategies for fighting corruption. Up till as I speak, not a single Attorney General has looked at it. Because I said there was a need to harmonize what the law enforcement agencies do. It would have avoided this.
I asked that question of Mr. Obla.
Yes.
I don't know if you watched the program on that day. We were trying to look at if they had issues of overlapping of functions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have the ICPC, you have the SFU, you have now the DSS jumps in to say they are part of the law enforcement agents. You have all manner of agents. Next thing, customs will jump in. So let's have clarification from the Attorney General. Exactly what agencies of government have the powers to do this? We need to know who does what.
But if those functions are overlapping,
yes,
because even the Administration of Criminal Justice Act also says that the police or the person effecting the arrest.
Yeah.
So isn't that a lacuna by itself? Saying, look, okay, if it's not the police, whoever is effecting the arrest could be the DSS in this case, or a citizen arrest or something.
Well, the problem is that DSS is not one of the law enforcement agencies envisaged by the Act, because the DSS function is limited by the Act creating it to internal security. It didn't extend it to criminal investigations, but Mr. Obla thinks so. So that again is a matter for debate. And in any event, as I said, if all these policies and laws are clarified, we won't have a problem. But right now, it is difficult to tell whether or not the DSS has jurisdiction in criminal matters. I concede that abroad, the equivalent of DSS in the UK, at a point had this type of jurisdiction until it was removed and given to the National Crime Agency. In the US, they retain jurisdiction for serious financial crime. In Nigeria, it is unclear whether the DSS, if we believe Mr. Obla, then he says the DSS has. I say they don't have. So why don't we simply clarify it?
All right, let's turn to Mark. She's got a question.
Right.
Mark, bye.
Well, I still have one question. I have questions.
Ask them.
So I'm going to quickly go through each one of them. You talked about 5 judges being dismissed, 5 of the 7 who were arrested being dismissed by the NJC,
yes.
And that they were dismissed for different offenses, so they could not have been stinged by the DSS.
Absolutely.
Yet, I think Mr. Obla was the one who pointed out the fact that only one of those judges was recommended for prosecution. Why do you think that is the case?
That's not correct.
And don't you think that we're also dealing with definitions here, because you've talked about internal security being a threat, which is what the DSS is